Welcome to This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is episode 48. In this episode, we welcome a special guest. He is a Marquette University alum, former troupe member at the iconic Second City Theater in Chicago. He's the co-founder of Improvability, a prominent organization that provides improvisational workshops to help companies motivate their staff and strengthen team building. He's performed in tons of TV and films shows, including The George Wendt Show, Murphy Brown, It's Complicated with Meryl Streep, The Middle, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and of course, he played Joe Mayo, the unforgettable party host in the season 9 episode of Seinfeld, The Reverse Peephole. Please welcome Pat Finn. Thanks, Pat.
Wow, thank you. That's awful nice.
Pat, great to have you on the show. I am a one of 6 children of Irish Catholic descent, so I'm glad to have another one of us on the program.
What number are you?
5.
That's me.
Oh,
I'm 5. 5 out of 6. Way to go.
There we go. I got two sisters that sandwich the 4 boys, and I'm 5 out of 6.
That's exactly what we have.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, my sister Mickey and Katie are like identical, and then the 4 boys are in the middle.
Look at that.
That's nuts. Wow, that's pretty crazy coincidence.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into to Seinfeld. So 1998, right?
You want to talk about it?
I think you had the connection with Andy Ackerman from the George Wendt Show. Is that how the role came along in 98, right after? Because you did a big run on Murphy Brown that ended in 97.
It's funny, actually. So I was in Second City, and George Wendt's wife directed me in a show, or us in a show, and they were trying to find somebody to play his brother, and they really couldn't find anybody for some reason. So they were like, come on out and scout this guy. He's an Irish Catholic and used to work on a pop truck and caddy and all these things. And so they ended up flying me back and forth a ton for those auditions, and I ended up getting it. And it's probably the third, it's like we started on a Tuesday and we were done on a Friday. And we got there at like 10, and they let us go at like 2. And I'm like, that's the day. That's all we're okay. That's the wow. Because I was a Teamster, and they go a little longer, and we had an hour lunch. So I'm in LA with really no idea what's going on and how this all works, and never really took a lot of acting classes and stuff. So I'm on the Radford lot, and so I just start wandering around, and I walk by this kind of elephant door that's ajar a little bit, and I hear this laughter. And so I go in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're rehearsing Seinfeld. I've seen the show. It's an awesome show. Wow. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm just kind of like this, and I'm looking, and I'm like, it's a funny scene. That's hilarious. And just like 5 or 6 guys in director's chairs, and they get up and move to the next scene, and this guy goes, yeah, I'm sorry, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm in a TV show next door. I don't know, I have no idea what's going on, and I'm just trying to learn as much as I can before we start shooting. And he goes, stick around with me for the day, and you can check stuff out. And that was Andy. And,
wow.
And then we've kind of subsequently met in different paths. But I actually it was kind of weird. It was a Saturday audition, which is kind of rare. And I remember being at like a kid's birthday party, and my wife and a bunch of children, and a bunch of moms and dads. And I get a call. They're like, hey, can you get to Radford like within a half hour? They're casting this part. And I was like, my kid's party, but yeah, it's a great show. So I'd be sure, of course. So I zip over this audition. There's a bunch of us in the room, and we all go in, and they're like, just, hold on after your audition, and we'll let you know at the end, and then everybody can go, and the person that has it can stay. I was like, okay. And so I ended up going in, auditioning, and well, apparently, and we're done. Everyone's waiting, and they said, hey, everyone, great job, but Pat, why don't you stick around? I was like, oh, wow. So then they literally are like, okay, let's walk down to the table read. And so we walk down in the lot down to the sound stage, and we go in, and the entire cast is there around this table. And they're like, Pat, you're
all the same day. This is right after.
All the same day. Like, I was literally at a children's party, like eating cake, like 40 minutes earlier. So
wow.
So I'm like, but so we did the table read. The coolest thing was, first of all, that it was, my wife and I was our favorite show, but just how funny the table read was. I mean, just people were tearing up at every line and joke, and people from the executives were there and all that. And so that's how I literally went back to the children's party. My wife was like, God, that took you forever. I'm like, sorry, I was doing a table read for Seinfeld. So he was like, oh my gosh. So
Wish we all had that excuse to get out of a party like that.
yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's unorthodox. I'd have to guess that that's not how it normally works.
No, but that show tended to be. Perhaps
Yeah.
they either had somebody on the hook for it, it fell apart, or they just went a different way, or they were different than shows in that manner.
Mm.
They would work on Saturdays, or they would, they were not as not in a bad way. It was kind of their own
Right.
thing, whatever works for you, and it certainly worked for them.
So then you get the gig. So tell us a little bit about the shooting and on the set, things like that. I mean, is there any? I mean, I know you have an improv background. Was there anything they let you kind of play with in your scenes or anything like that that kind of came up?
That's a great question. I mean, I know Jerry stand up, and most people they'll know if you're an improviser or not, or can improvise. This is just my own kind of thing on any show that I've ever done or movie. I assume there's zero improv unless it's called for. Like I'm not gonna hey, I got a wacky joke to throw at you, because it's like, oh, really, Pat? Because these writers are pretty good. So I'm certainly not going to change anything or do anything unless I feel I'm that comfortable. And certainly in this case, I was, kind of coming off the bench to shoot some free throws. So it wasn't like in the cast, although they were ridiculously nice to me. But with that being said, Andy, we were doing a run through, and he said, hey, try to do something to make Jerry laugh. And I was like, oh, okay, because it's play. You can play. You can find things and experiment. It may work, may not work. And I felt that gave me they took the reins off a little bit. And I flew in like a few days, like a week or so earlier, and I was just sitting there, we're waiting to get have the jetway pulled up to the plane, and I was just looking outside, and I think they were just goofing around, but these guys were just going nuts with directing people. And I was like, oh, I'll do something like that. So I just kind of went, hey, Jerry, do me a favor, make sure nobody taps on the glass, and laughed. Jerry got a laugh, and then the next day we did it, and I didn't include it. And Jerry's like, hey, wow, where's this? Like, I was just doing it. Andy said to try to make you laugh. He goes, yeah, I did. How about making everybody laugh? I was like, you want to keep it? Because usually if there's a change in the script, there's an asterisk. So something's different, whether it's stage direction or a line. And there wasn't anything, so I assumed, I shouldn't push my luck. And Andy's like, no, very much keep it in the show. So it was kind of cool. It was, it was fun to be able to do something that made Jerry laugh, who's, as a comic, it's hard to get a laugh like that. So it was a good day.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unforgettable character, to be honest, right? Like Joe Mayo, like literally this summer, the guy that rented my beach house his name was Joe Mayo. And like, yeah, from that, like so many references of tap the glass, like that's all we did the whole time there. But, and you didn't spend, you had one scene, you had a few lines, but like really a lasting impact. Like,
oh, that's nice to say.
No, I mean, it is.
That's true. I mean, it's an unforgettable part.
Thanks. The two things about it, one were Joe Mayo was the actual sound guy. That was his name.
So that's
they do that often.
Theme.
Yeah, I mean,
with Spike Ferenczen wrote the episode, and he seems to do that a lot and pull in like
Alec Burr,
I guess friends of the show with the name. But Joe Mayo's a great name.
Well, it is, and one of the kind of things was that pretty much everybody's got their gaggle of friends, and there's a lot of times there's one that you call him by both names, like Joe Mayo. You don't call him Joe or the name. So they took some of it out, but one of the bits that Larry had that he wanted Michael Kramer to get angry because nobody calls me a nickname. It's like, why do we have to call him both names? Why don't we just call him Joe? Nobody calls him Joe. Joe's a good name, but it's like you always say like Bill, Steve, Mary, Joe Mayo, whatever. The other little fun fact is that in the scene, if you go back and look at it, Joe Mayo, the sound guy, he's the one he has gray hair and I believe a mustache, but he's the one who has a drink on the speaker.
Nice.
So they put him in the shot, which I thought was a nice little tip of the cap.
Putty took care of him. Yep.
Yeah, but he brought his family in, and he's up in the booth most of the time. So, and super great guy, super nice guy.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
We wanted to kind of go back a little bit because Marquette and then Second City, and also we saw you in the Farley doc. I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Farley. We're huge SNL fans, especially from that era. I mean, Lorne Michaels likes to say you're a fan of when you were in high school, and that was kind of our box right there those years. And I just know that you and Farley were pretty close. If you had any stories there you wouldn't mind sharing, or
yeah, I mean, Chris and I, it's funny, I went to Marquette. I was trying to get into another school and I didn't get in, so I kind of went to Marquette begrudgingly. And I went so late that I was put in the sophomore dorm, where most freshmen aren't. And I was put in the lounge, and then subsequently just met people that were a year older because that's all I knew. And it turns out I met my wife at 18 and was married with 3 kids, and it's great. And the other one was Jim Murphy, who works for Pixar and wrote Lava, and Farrell's and Chris Farley, and we all played rugby together as well with my brother Kevin. So it was Chris was actually he's super Catholic. We would go to church a lot. I know people kind of find that hard to believe, but we did a lot to try to volunteered a ton, and we go to mass and pray. And he was also a really good athlete, which is hard for somebody that size, but you can't fall on a table, you can't do all those bits if he's not athletic. He was actually a really good basketball player, and I was amazed at how he could put the ball between his legs, because I always thought it would get stuck. But he was a great rugby player too, so and also would bring his shenanigans to the pitch as well.
Well, his I remember he did the ice skating in his SNL for the Olympics. Was
epic. and the Chippendales dancing with Swayze's, his movie.
Yeah, well, that was fantastic. He he grew up like me. Playing, we had pond hockey, but my dad would go out and flood the backyard, and so we play. All my brothers and I would play hockey. My sister was a figure skater, so I think it was the same thing with Chris. I never played hockey with him, but I remember we talked one time, and he's like, "You'd probably be a good hockey player." I liked it a lot. He goes, "Yeah."
Did you?
He was always. He goes, "I was always the goalie." I mean, you can't fault somebody for that. That's right. It's a wise coaching move.
Oh man, I mean, we miss his humor greatly.
Yeah,
I'm sure you miss him as a friend greatly. Did just speaking of Marquette, one of our other guests we had on another Seinfeld connection, Jimmy Anthony Stark, was also a Marquette grad. Did you?
Yeah.
Have connection? He's 2 years older than you, I think.
He is. I knew Anthony vaguely. He's such a good actor, and I. So Chris wanted to. We would listen to like National Lampoon albums and Steve Martin and Bob Newhart just to try to just get comedy. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to do improv or anything. We just wanted to do it and didn't know how. And we ended up. He auditioned for a play, and I was too nervous, so I didn't do it. And he got it, and the whole rugby team came. And then I went backstage and met the theater director, and I'm sure Anthony was in it. And I'm like, I'm going to try out next year. And I was all nervous, and she's like, great. And we go to watch Chris in the thing, and he's in the first half a little bit as a cop, and he's not in a lot in the second half. And I think honestly, one of the rugby players like went backstage and like, Farrell's, get back out there, which is so like absurd to think of. And so Chris took the goat with its back legs and then walked it out in a scene, like literally in the middle of a scene. It was Curse of the Starving Class. And it's like, oh, it's just, there's a goat on the loose. So I got it. Like, huge laugh, and then just kind of left, and just subsequently kind of the rest of the show didn't go as well as it should have. But so Chris was kicked out of theater, and I, by proxy, was kicked out as well before he got my feet on the boards. But Anthony's great. Yeah, he's. I see him from time to time at auditions. And the other Marquette people out here are Chris Mars, who's a writer-actor. You've seen him in a bunch of stuff. Kevin Farley.
Yeah.
And Danny Pudi. Ironically, the first recipient of the Chris Farley Award. Scholarship.
Huh. That's awesome. So Farley went on to obviously SNL prominence, and I actually heard a story. I'd love to hear your take on it. But you obviously you tried out for SNL as well, and I know you did a Chet Kopic impersonation. I heard, and I know many people don't know who he is, but I mean I could picture him clear as day with the suspenders.
It, yeah.
We got him on WGN here and like
Okay.
Sports Channel years ago, so I'm familiar with him. But I'm curious how Lorne Michaels took that.
Yeah, there was a couple things. One, they wanted a celebrity impression and a political impression if you had time something on your own. And I told my agent, who also had Lauren, or my manager, Brolstein, that I'm like, I don't do impressions. I can't really do this. It's not going to work. And so I was going to switch gears and just make it all up. And then they called back and said, no, man, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. It's not going to go well. You have to do what everybody else is doing. So I talked to my friend Tim Kazurinsky that night, and we kind of went through ideas. And we were going to do a character named Hosni Mubarak, who was he had something like 11 assassination attempts on him. He was
What year was this, Pat?
Gosh, 95, right? 95-ish, I think. I'm horrible with years.
Yeah.
I know Eisenhower is out of office at this point. I remember that. No, but anyway, so I decided on just doing Chet Kopic, and again, it was like getting a tryout for the Bears, you know. So you're on 8H, and they narrowed it down to 10 people in the country, and so I start with Ted Koppel, who I've never done before, not even at like a party, interviewing Bill Clinton, and it's just horrible. It's just going awful, and they're like, Lauren's going to have a newspaper, and he's going to look through a little tiny hole in the newspaper, and he'll never drop it. And it was going so bad that he had to see like the carnage live. Like he slowly dropped, like, I got to see what the hell this guy's doing. And so I panicked and went right into Chet Kopic. And Chet Kopic I actually met him later on and told him the story, and he was pickled. He was super tickled. He was happy. So Chet Kopic, have you heard him at all, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that was the thing. He would get anybody to interview, for those who don't know, and he would just make one question like absurdly long. So it'd be like, all right, folks, stick around. We got ourselves a round baller. We got Michael Jeffrey Jordan to work the 94-foot hustle, the circular Zeppelin. He's going to tickle the twine all night long. If you're wanting to play against the Bulls, you're going to be playing against the mighty Michael Jordan out of the Tar Heel country. But he just says all these catchphrases, and then like the question's not even in there. And then it's like, all right, stick around. We're right back. Like they didn't even get to it. It's so long. But yeah, so I didn't. I think Chris did his audition at Second City, and they videotaped it there. So I think he broke his foot at a pratfall, and then he might have gone out, but they had him on his radar pretty serious.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have a really strong connection to the Chicago guys with George Wendt, Farley.
Yeah.
And I know you were in the Goldbergs with Jeff Garlin, and also the Curb episode, the season's 5 finale at Curb. Kind of curious how the Curb episode, how you got that gig. Was it through those guys like Jeff Garlin, or was it
the Curb?
About? Yeah, the Curb.
Curb was actually through Larry knew me from Seinfeld. They didn't announce. It's funny. They actually. It was beyond flattering. Halfway through, Jerry came over during the week and was like, "Hey, we're going to make this a recurring character." And I'm like, "That's ridiculously flattering. That's so great. I would love to come back," because they were the nicest people ever, and obviously super funny and talented. And then Friday, I think it was a Friday or Tuesday that we taped. It was the end before the Christmas holiday break. And so they're like, "Hey, Jerry wants to know if you would stick around. We got like some pizzas coming, just a small little group." And I was like, "I got my wife and my brother was in town." And they're like, "Yeah, bring them. That'd be great." So we literally this tiny little gathering of just the writers and the cast. And then Jerry's like, "Hey, I think we're gonna wrap the show." And he's like, "I just want to let you know that we have to bring in characters that we've established from years ago, and yours is so new, it's not like a big callback." And it was just again, flattering that he asked, and very cool that he said that, because in Hollywood you don't have to do that. You
That's
just kinda
class
walk.
act.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was.
I could have easily seen Joe Mayo as a recurring character too. I mean, he hit the nail
Yeah,
on the
I mean,
head. I mean,
it's yeah. They actually, here's a little fun fact for you. They I came in one day and Julia ran up and like hugged me. She was super excited, and she goes, "They wrote another scene," which never happens because they're like 50 pages anyway, so they're way too long
right.
every show. And to put more meat onto that steak is ridiculous, crazy. But the scene, I'll let you know. I don't know if you know it or not, but they the scene they added was Julia and I went to the diner, and Julia's there, and I come in and I sit down, and I'm like, "Hey, Julia, thanks so much for meeting me." And she's like, "Sure, is everything okay?" And I said, "Hold on one second." And I turned to this gentleman next to me having like soup by himself, and I said, "Sir," and he's like, "Yeah." I go, "So sorry to bother you. Can you tell me what time it is?" And he's like, "It's 3 minutes to 4." I go, "Great, thanks so much. Do me a favor, tell me when it's 4. Thank you." So look, Julia, kind of owe me for that coat. And we're having our scene, and all of a sudden it's like, "Excuse me, hold on a second. Yeah. You wanted me to tell you when it was 4 o'clock? Oh, right. Thanks so much. Julia, I got to go." And that was it. Like everybody in my world just did everything for me. Like in my world.
You just give
I thought it
people
was
a
a funny
job.
bit. We never even got to shoot it. But I thought,
I mean, that's a great scene. They should have kept that in.
I
isn't
know.
that crazy? It would have
I
been
mean,
so,
just like hearing you do the Joe Mayo
And
voice
then the
again, it's like
movements and everything. I mean,
yeah.
bring him back.
It was crazy. But then, so Jeff and I came up, from Chicago together in Second City, and thick as thieves, and they brought in like the best or biggest whatever improvisers in the city when Curb came out, and I'm sure Jeff threw all the names at him or a bunch of them, and I went in twice to audition, and this is Larry's thing to Jeff, that he's like, "Pat's too nice. Pat's like, the whole show works with confrontation.
yeah.
Why'd you throw your trash away in my garbage can? You can use your own garbage can. So it's not that. Whereas I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get it out." Because you improvise the
Right.
gosh, the scene
For the audition, you improvised too, I'm assuming then, right? Is
Yes,
that
they
what
give
you're
you like
saying?
a little, like a fortune cookie type of piece of paper, and it gives a scenario. In this case, my scenario was you're in a bowling alley, and somebody Larry brought his super expensive loafers last time he bowled, and somebody took them, and then I have the loafers. So that's what the setup is. So you walk in, you say hi to everybody, and then they're like, "Okay, you and Larry are going to do the scene. You're either going to do it right or you're going to do it wrong." And there's probably 50, 60 people there to audition. So Larry comes over, and he's like, "Excuse me." And I said, "Oh, did you want to borrow this chair?" And he's like, "No, those shoes. What's with those are? Oh, they're my shoes." And I'm like, "So sorry." Because "You took them. You took my shoes." And it's kind of this verbal thing. And I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry. I had a couple of glasses beer before when we did this last time, and I took the wrong shoes home. And so the next day, I put them on to go to work, and I was like, these aren't my shoes. I got to bring them back after work." But then I go to work, and I get a promotion. And then my ex-girlfriend calls me up, wants to get back together. Then I went to scratch her for $1,000. "These are my lucky shoes." I'm like, "You can't take my lucky shoes." And that was just kind of the bit of it.
Right,
And
right.
he's like, he wanted confrontation. Ironically, I was one of the ones that did it the right way, but there's not enough confrontation. So the final, they thought was the final season. Larry, it was just not. Larry and Jeff were like, "We want to have you in this show. And sorry, the role's small, but we're finishing up." And Larry came over and apologized. And I'm like, "No, we get to play. That's fun. I mean, what a crazy thing." And it went great. And then they announced they're going for more. So I saw Jeff at a party, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'll come back." And he goes, "Yeah, Larry doesn't bring people back." Like once you do a bit, unless you
Right.
that same, unless you're Joe Mayo again with a character, you can't do another one. So, but it was still fun to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know George went. I guess there's a special place in your heart for him. He's I think your son's godfather, if I recall, right?
He is. He and his wife Bernadette.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean we're big fans of him. He obviously Cheers, and he had a big part. He had a small part on Seinfeld, so there's a connection there. And then obviously the George Wendt show, which um, there's just a lot of connections, right? Mark Christopher Lawrence was a part of that show.
Yeah,
We had him on our program. He came back twice on Seinfeld as two different.
Yeah, which is crazy because I've done that on 2 or 3 shows, and it's weird. But I died on a show and came back on. I think it was Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
But wasn't Mark Honolulu?
Yeah, he was JFK.
That's my favorite line. JFK Honolulu.
Yeah. No, we were just on Facebook writing each other. He's such a great talent and great guy.
And obviously the other Seinfeld connection is Brian Murray, who plays the Bubble Boy's father. It's like,
Yeah.
The Chicago Seinfeld connection is strong for sure.
No, it is for sure. I grew up down the street from the Murrays. So our moms used to go to church every day together. So actually, one of the sisters is a nun. We taught my little sister, Katie. So it's kind of a wild. So Joel Murray is the youngest of 9, and he was my brother's age. So when we moved out here, we didn't know a lot of people. So Joel and his wife Liza became super close, and to this day we vacation and holidays, and they're great. They have a Caddyshack golf tournament that I've been a part of, and Brian is just such an icon in general with Caddyshack and all the things. To be like the fact that I played golf with him, and you can just be like, "Hey Brian, what was that? The scene with Chevy and Bill and the ball went in the groundskeeper. Well, yeah, it was all improvised. Just like hearing stuff like that, like where'd that come from and where'd this come from? But I caddied at the course where it was written because the Murray's caddied there too.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, but it is. It's a crazy. I'm trying to think if I did the middle with Neil Flynn, but I'm trying to think. I thought he did a Seinfeld, but maybe not.
He was he's the main guy in the middle? No, he didn't do Jerry. All right, so as a Chicago guy, you're mid 50s. You're probably a Bulls, Bears, Cubs fan.
Yeah.
What's the team? 85 Bears?
Yeah. Yeah, and yes, and probably because it was so long ago that the Cubs World Series was pretty
yeah.
No, but I mean, and also because I had from the Caddyshack tournaments gotten to know the Ricketts and their family, and we went to the World Series. It's funny, my wife and I went to the World Series, and we're sitting in our seats, and I took a picture, like on my iPhone. Look at me, took a picture, and on my phone, and then took another one. And she goes, "What were those 2 pictures?" And I said, "Well, the scoreboard, because it always has all the teams that are playing that day, and I've never seen it with just 2 teams left.
Right, yeah.
They've never been in a World Series." And the other one was where I sat for the first time as an altar server with the nuns. If you served enough masses as an altar boy, you got to go to a Cub game. So I never went we didn't go as a family at all because it was just, my dad was always pretty busy with stuff. So that was the only time we could go to a Cub game as an altar boy.
That's a great story. I got the chills on that one, man. The scoreboard thing is very cool.
No, and it's definitely that our kids have been there. And there was a charity event where I got to play wiffle ball with Kerry Wood, and George was one of the coaches, and Bill Murray was the other coach, and it was just crazy. It's just to like be at bat and have Derek Lee on first base goes, "Hit me in, Pat." Oh, okay, Derek Lee, who was like on every fantasy team I had. So.
What I'd like to just ask you maybe if there's anything we didn't cover that you had in mind as far as any stories, anything like that from all your time with all these amazing people you've worked with, and whether it's
I've been really lucky in that as a kid I just grew up. You kind of idolize Second City and SNL and things like that, but you certainly don't think it's something that you could attain. But that I got, and probably with Chris's prodding, I didn't try out for Second City. Chris did, and I chickened out, and he got all mad.
Oh wow!
Which he should have, because we were like best friends. Chris, he was a year older, so he waited for me so we could both go down to Chicago together. And so he lived with his parents for a year to save money, which is ultimately Tommy Boy, because his dad owned an oil company.
Okay.
Which is crazy, because just that little buffer became Tommy Boy. because that's,
Brake pads. Yeah.
yeah.
Tommy sold 1 million brake pads.
Yeah, exactly. Chris would take people out for dinner and get them drunk and have them sign a contract. It was hilarious. But yeah, so then I went to his first class. I snuck in and was thought for sure I'd get kicked out. And I wasn't even gonna get on stage, and the director kind of made me, or the teacher. And afterwards I said, hey man, I snuck in here. I'm not part of this group. And he goes, well, I think you're supposed to be here. He goes, just pay. So they added one more person, which was me. And then I went through the ranks, got in the touring company, toured for a year, got put on a stage, wrote 2 shows, then got put on the main stage, which was like a dream. And the same week I got the main stage was the week I got the George Wendt show, which was just absurd. And back to like crazy, like serendipitous situations, I get that with Brian. You know, I didn't have much acting experience whatsoever. I'd never seen a taping, never been to a sitcom. And then George took me under his wing. So we'd go to his house and have a couple beers. I mean, he's exactly what you would think. He's super smart, super funny, great guy, loves beer. And it's funny, he would be like, hey, his kids were in high school. And he goes, we're going away for the week. So would you mind coming over and helping me drain the keg so all the high school kids don't drink it? And I was like, oh, sure. And I told my wife, and she's like, see, you're just a good friend. I'm like, well, you know. So,
God, wish I had friends like that from
I know, right?
But I'm just like, to circle back to 98, right? You got the call from Ackerman or Seinfeld. Like, and you told your wife, like, I got to go to Seinfeld. You guys were big fans. Like,
yeah.
Any shows you remember that, like, you loved? Like, what hooked you originally to that show? If you can recall. Because that was, you were pretty much, you just got out of college essentially, right? You were kind of working stuff when it came out.
It was just one of those where I want to say it's on Wednesday night.
It was, yep.
And one of the reasons well, first of all, is my wife and I was our favorite show, and we had our daughter Cassidy in '95. And it's funny because she was, it was either her or Caitlin, one or the other. Might have been Caitlin, our other daughter. But she was born, and Seinfeld was on in the room. So we always knew, like, oh yeah, it was 8:00 or whatever. We just like knew because Seinfeld was on at that time. I should probably look up what episode it was.
95 she was born, you said?
One was 95, one was 97.
95 was probably season 7.
Okay.
Which is a great season, man. That's a good season.
But it's, I mean, it's one of those things where, as an actor, you kind of, your job is to know your lines, go in and do your thing, and then split. And that's kind of what I expected. And so when I was done with the scene, I'd go over to this like table in the middle where they have magazines and newspapers, and I just stayed there. One, so I could listen and kind of learn from their rehearsal, because I'm still trying to pick up stuff. And the other was, in case they needed me, I wasn't too far away, so they wouldn't think I was some snotty actor. And then the cast gradually would come, like Jason sat down. And he's like, hey, so what's your deal? Where are you from? And each one came over, and we started talking. And it was so nice because they didn't have to, but to be welcomed into any group is nice, especially that group. And you certainly want them to be nice because you put them on such a high pedestal. I remember I was backstage, and there was this big like fruit platter, and Jerry came over, and it was like maybe later on in the first day. And I don't do a Jerry very good one, so I won't do it. But he was just like, "Hey, it's going great." I'm like, "Oh, thanks so much." He goes, "You're doing really well." I'm like, "Wow, that's so nice of you. I really appreciate that." And it was kind of a beat. And I go, "I got to tell you, this is by far, my wife and I, it's our favorite show. So I'm so excited that I can be a part of it." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "This is your favorite show?" I was like, "Yeah. I mean, there's other people in the country that feel the same way. It's not like it's a hidden gem." And he's like, and he kind of laughed. And I'm like, "Oh, I got to laugh." And then there was like dead silence, and it was awkward. And I just went, and nobody's going to get scurvy today. So that's also good news. And then then he laughed, and he's like, "Scurvy's a funny word." But it was just, it was, and Julia I've seen since, for auditions for Veep and things like that. She'll jump up and hug me, which is so nice. But yeah, it's just such. I mean, I've been on airplanes and it's amazing how many people have seen that episode. Like, just that'll come up to you at places, at a ball game or airport or a restaurant. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But I mean, honestly, I watched the episode with my kids and stuff. It's a really well written episode.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
funny.
And to be honest, we're not huge season 9 guys. We always you say that, but it's a great season 9 episode. I just rewatched it.
Yeah.
Spike Feresten wrote it. I don't know how much interaction you had with him as far as that goes.
Some. I mean, it's one of those. I'm a fan of all the writers. I think there should be more. Some play it like offense, defense, but Second City, it's both. So even on Ed, I would always go over to Robert and Ed and those guys would just kind of talk whenever I could, just about anything, and sometimes the character or whatever. But I think it makes for then they I think have a better feel for how to write for you.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of that show, we talk about it a lot, is and I think you talked about it when meeting these guys. They're just unselfish, and like 2 of our favorite episodes include these Marquette grads, right? Jimmy and Joe Mayo. Enough said, and they let you guys shine.
Well, I tell you, that one thing I always go back to is that Second City, one of the Paramount concepts, other than Yes and, which everyone kind of knows, the other one is making the other person look good. And that was a show that did it. If Jerry had an idea for somebody else and it was a better line or anything, then that would be done. There wasn't an ego issue at all. And Julia's from Second City, so I think it shows in her acting as well. But yeah, it was a crazy thing to be a part of. And I haven't seen Jerry, I don't think, since. But it's one of those things that he reminds me of like one of my brothers. He's just a guy you can sit and talk to. And he obviously has a ridiculously hilarious slant on things. So he's probably one of my favorite stand-ups, like who's just the test of time kind of a thing.
Listen, Pat, we can't thank you enough. Thanks for joining. Thanks for taking us down memory lane with Farley, Seinfeld. Like, these are kind of our favorite topics. So
no, it's very cool. I mean, it's nice to to have been a part of that time. And like kind of like what you were saying a little bit before, Chris, is that there was really nobody like Farles. And the one thing I always say is that I wish my kids would have known him, because there's nobody that's like him. I mean, he was so different in energy and presence that he brought a show everywhere he went. That's not common. So it's nice that we have the stuff like that. It's funny. Somebody just sent me that ice skating one, and I haven't seen it in years. I forgot about it. It was great. I'm like, look at Farles going backwards.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was very cool. Well, it was an honor to hang out with you guys and talk.
Thank you so much, Pat. This was amazing. We really appreciate your time, man.
You're welcome. Be well.
Be well, Pat. Thanks so much.
Take care. You too.
Cheers.